Okay, one, this is my first time just like putting on lashes just because. So if you see me blinking a lot, um, I'm adjusting. And I want to blame my bestie because her, like being around her, has me wearing these. And y'all know, if you know me, like I'm 100% a natural girl. Like you see this bun, like this is Team Natural over here, but it is what it is. So, guys, I'm just like coming over here to talk to you about like the importance of creating time and space for yourself. I know I posted my tea. If you see, I have created a new tea in our self-care line that is called Selfish, which is just it is about empowering the word selfish and really breaking it down to something that is fixated and focused on the idea of doing things for ourselves. We are naturally and constantly taught that doing things for ourselves is selfish. But it's good to be selfish because you actually absolutely have to do things for yourself because you're literally no good for anyone else. I've sat in so many different roles and held a lot of different titles. First being the first time I got exposed to the idea of selfish being wrong was being an eldest child, the oldest sibling, where I got caught into this cycle of always giving, doing, and pleasing, right? Being there for other people. And that cycle shifted from my adolescence to my teen years to my early 20s to my, am I still in my early 20s? We're not going to go by years to whatever, wherever I am right now. Okay. And I really learned, and that's, in these different roles, these different time periods, that if I do not make time for me, I become absolutely depleted, which does not make me valuable for anyone else. I was just literally talking to a colleague yesterday who was talking about her own personal feelings and just where she was in relation to her workload. And I asked, I said, I bet you're snappy right now. And she's like, girl, she's like, I'm just so worn out by the time I get home. And I absolutely knew it because I've been there. Like I've had time periods where I've just spread so thin. Everybody's like, oh, superwoman, super mom, complimenting me. And that's the glamour of doing so much. But on the back end, on the not making time for me, it's me depleted, it's me tired, it's me depressed, it's me being snappy. Like it's me saying, um, me not wanting to have conversation, me having attitudes, me being irritable, and it's really no one else's fault that I'm not making time for me, right? Something else that has come up a lot in conversation is people saying, oh, well, I don't have time to do things for me. I always pause that conversation as well. I'm like, hold on. If I said, are you dating, married, in a relationship, engaged? Have someone that's courting you, 9 times out of 10, I hear someone say yes. I say, oh, that's interesting. If someone told you they have an interest in you, they have some level of commitment to you, if they told you they had no time for you, I don't have time for you, would you maintain that relationship? Like, would that be a relationship that you continue to have? And everybody's like, absolutely not. Oh, okay. So you have an expectation for other people that you don't even have for yourself. Like, I want that to marinate. You have a higher expectation for your friend, your family, your friends, your family, your significant other than you have for yourself. So everybody else needs to make time for you, but you can't make time for you. How does that work? Like, how is that okay? Where do like what did I say? Where do they do that at? So, we always make time. If you over there ironing, Yanni? This mom life is real, okay? We always make time for what is important for ourselves. I always see that quote. People always make time for what's important for them. Don't ever let somebody tell you they're too busy. Yet these quotes and these expectations and this connotation is always something that is existent with external factors. Like these are external expectations. But how many times do you take those same quotes and you apply them to yourself? Like how often is that message applicable to you? People always make time for what's important for them. So how important are you to you? How much time do you have for you? Like, you don't have time? You actually do have time, but you're choosing not to have time. And, it's kind of hard to always accept that, because sometimes you're like, oh, well, I have this and I have that going on, I have this going on. But if you plan, if you strategize, I'm sure you have at least 5 minutes in your day where you can dedicate and be intentional to healing, providing self-care, giving self-love, giving yourself what you need. Everybody's 5 minutes might not look the same. It might be reading for some. It might be meditating for others. It might be deep breathing. It might be a bubble bath. It might be, like, I'm not saying everybody wants to say self-care, go on trips. And let me tell you something. I'm 100% for traveling. I'm 100% for exploring the world outside of us and the world inside of us. Because even through traveling, I feel like you do both. Like, you go to new places and you learn more about yourself internally and externally. So I'm 100% for that. But I'm saying I know that comes with a cost, financially and time-wise. So I'm not saying self-care is 100% about traveling, even though I am an advocate for traveling. I'm saying, do you have 5 minutes to give to yourself every day? And you do. And there's no way you're going to tell me that you don't. You absolutely do have 5 freaking minutes to give to yourself. That is prioritizing your own needs. When you're sitting there and responding to frivolous texts, when you're sitting there scrolling down your timeline, when you're sitting there doing something that you do not need to do, or that it's not a top priority, right? Because you could say, well, oh, self-care is when I'm scrolling down this timeline. Okay, let's go with that. When I'm caring for myself, I'm scrolling down this timeline. Okay, that sounds good. But how does that help to nurture you? How does that help to uplift you? How does that help to help you feel better? Now, maybe you all might say it's a mental break, okay? So I guess we can try to go with that. But I think there's other activities and other ways that we can be just like a tad bit more intentional with our time, and doing things that are absolutely like for the betterment of ourselves, like the back of that T says, the betterment of self. Like, what are you doing that is intentional for the betterment of self? When I scroll through the timeline, I'm taking a mental break. Yes, but are you focusing on that internal work that you need? Are you being reflective of your day? Are you de-escalating the stress within your body? Are you being aware of your thoughts? Like, I don't really think that necessarily happens. I honestly feel, and I'm gonna be honest, because I've been a notorious scroller, and I'm really trying to break that habit. I really think that people use social media the same way they use people, and that is as a scapegoat. So I'm going to keep scrolling through this timeline because I'm trying to distract myself from what's really going on in me internally or externally. The factors that I don't want to talk about that are in my life. The feelings that are coming up that I don't want to face. So it's a distraction. So I don't necessarily see timeline scrolling as a form of self-care. It seems like it's become a space of, and I'm not trying to go on give a whole little lecture or whatever. But it seems like that we are starting to use things that we want to do and hashtagging it self-care. And I don't think that's self-care, because that's actually, I think in some ways we have to be careful. Is it self-care or is it self-sabotage, right? And I wrote a blog on that before too. Like, if I'm doing something I'm saying is self-care, then it should be for the betterment of my being. If I'm using a social media platform to distract me from the feelings that I have or from the issues that I have going on in my life, that's not for the betterment of my being. That's a distraction. So that's ultimately delaying my healing. That's ultimately preventing me from getting to that next level of self. That's ultimately stopping me from that point of growth. That's ultimately holding me up from operating in my higher self. Like, that's not self-healing. That's not self-care. People say, oh, I went and balled out. I went and bought a whole bunch of stuff that I know I don't need, that I did not financially plan for. And then you'll say, oh, but that's self-care. But I'm going to spend this money on this ticket. But I'm going to buy this purse. But I'm going to get these shoes. That's self-care. Is that self-care or self-sabotage? When you buy that, are you now financially depleted? Are you now trying to figure out how you're going to pay your bills? Are you prioritizing feeling good in this moment and avoiding something that could be a financial investment long term? Like, that's not self-care. So I want us to be really intentional about understanding that when we're doing this selfish stuff, we're really trying to work on being a better us. Okay. And now, if you can say your self care, those 5 minutes or that full day, everyone's timeline looks different. It's really fixated and focused on the betterment of yourself. And let's call that self care. But if you're using it as distractions, what's distracting me is this bun. Gosh, I'm like, okay. But if you're using these pieces to call them self care, but they're actually pieces of distraction, then you're using a term inappropriately. And forget it being inappropriate socially, because it's really not about anybody else, it's about you. But if you're going to say that this is what you're doing with yourself, then we need to be honest with self. And if we're being honest with self, what are we doing with ourselves to make sure that we're better than we were yesterday? And I know we're almost in a new calendar year. I know we're coming to the end of 2018. I know everybody doesn't operate on that calendar, but I know we're quote unquote coming to the end of the new year. And I want to tell you this. Excuse me, growth, evolution, self-care, self-love, those shouldn't be like, oh, I'm going to get to that in 2019. Like, no, if you feel you need that today, like, you need to work on that today. If you're hungry right now, you're not going to say, I'm going to wait to get myself something nutritious next week. You're not going to say, oh, I'm going to go make sure I get myself a good meal next month. Like, if you see a need for something in your life, like, let's prioritize that right now. That's why on my One Sun, Three Flowers Instagram page, I say, like, what's the first step right now? Because everybody wants to talk about hashtag goals. Hashtag goals. Like, how long is stuff going to sit in the space of being a goal? Things can sit as a goal forever. Let me tell you something. Let's be transparent. I got about 3 or 4 things on my vision board that I have seen show up every year. It's like, well, oh, dang, you ain't manifested it? You know why I haven't manifested it? Because I have done nothing to make sure that it was a true reality. Maybe I wasn't ready for it. Maybe it wasn't ready for me. Or maybe I just didn't plan properly. But there has to be a point where things become SMART goals, where they become things of action. If it's sitting in a space of just goals, if that's how you're hashtagging and you're doing no work, you know how the quote goes, baby, that's a wish. That's a wish. Let's stop hashtagging goals. Let's start working on us. Let's start working on the betterment of self. And let's come out here and get it. And I don't just mean from a financial aspect. I mean all things inclusive that work on our best and highest being. Financially, emotionally, spiritually, physically, like relationally. Like, let's get it. Let's not wait till 2019. I understand planning is important, but we can plan today. Like, what's the first thing you can do today? How can you nurture your being today? That starts with that 5 minutes that you said you didn't have. And guess what? I'm looking at the time on this video. If you sat here and watched this video from the beginning, we're already at 13 minutes and 26 seconds. That's almost triple the 5 minutes you said you didn't have. You see what I'm saying? So stop saying you don't have time for what you need. You do have time. And now I need you to go out there and reclaim your time and live your best life. Have a great day, guys.